Hey,
Hello.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on my On It Therapies. Today, I would like to basically share with you that I've met three professionals in their own right from the UK. I have to my left, to my right, or to your left, whoever. We have Adrian Ashby, this intelligence service investigation. He is a ex-police officer, private investigator, and is very much involved with the Mums Project alongside Kerry Mussington. He has his own primetime radio show called the Crime Lab, and he brings topics and information and obviously interviews guest speakers on the show. So thank you for joining me, Adrian.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. He's based in the Ipswich area of England. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Great. His background, his territory is really probation, prison service, and mental health, and how they all interlink. I'll go round the room and just introduce everyone, and you can hit it off, Adrian, when I come back round to you.
Okay.
JDA Lifestyles, hello and welcome for joining me on
hi.
this. So, JD, thank you for joining me. He's an ex-military personnel. He has launched his own business called JDA Lifestyle. He's a qualified fitness trainer and mental health advocate. We met and got connected, and I've really been enamored about the things that he's done, the life, the walk he's walked, the experience he's had, and how he's really turned around his own personal experience to really influence what he does today. And so I really take my hat off to you and the work that you do. And then last but not least, we have the Mum Project. This is Kerry Mussington. Kerry Mussington is a mother, a founder, an advocate, an entrepreneur, and very much is passionate about suicide prevention in our community. She recognises the challenges that people have through mental health. She has walked the walk, she's talked the talk, and now she's putting things into action. So Kerry, thank you for coming and joining us today. You've got a wealth of experience, and I'd love to hear more. And I've brought you online, all of you together, because I think we share a common goal, which is a passion for people, a passion for health and wellness, and ensuring that your lifestyle is A1 to ensure that your mental health is aligned. And obviously, with our intelligence service investigation, he keeps us in check with all the things, with the latest information with regards to the services that are out there, the changes that are needed within our police force to support us as a community of people that are balancing our mental health as well as trying to help others live a better quality of life. So over to you, Adrian, if you want to start. Thank you.
Okay. You've already obviously given me a kind introduction already, so thank you for that. Basically, I try to, if I can start with the radio show, I give my listeners and viewers as much information as I can about current events locally, and as time has gone on, I'm starting to cast my net wider. I spend an awful lot of time talking about stuff that's happening over in the US, especially with what happened last week with them storming the Capitol building under the guise of Mr. Trump. So that's what I tend to do. But as for career, policing, probation, private investigation, fraud investigation, benefit fraud investigation, warrant officer, bailiff, the list goes on, and I try to incorporate all of those specific fields into what goes on a daily basis. On a personal note, I do enjoy listening to the politics of the world, because I think the politics of the world is what makes it tick, and everything that happens, today gonna affect each of us tomorrow. So I try where I can to stay on top of as much information as I possibly can, to be as current as I possibly can.
Thank you. I've yet to really be a guest speaker on your show, but I can't wait for the opportunity and the invitation.
Sure, no, it's there sitting there waiting for you. Don't you worry about that.
Okay. JDA Lifestyles. Introduce yourself and let's hear everything about what you do and how you help your community.
Right. A lot of my full name is Jean-Louis Delhomme. You'll probably find me on Facebook under that. And I'm the co-founder of JDA Fitness. I am ex-military, was in the forces for 10 years. And during that time, because I've did 3 tours, seen action. And at the end of it, I suffer with PTSD. I also suffer with, I had diabetes, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol. Basically, cut a long story short, I changed my life around into positive effects where I reversed my diabetes, my cholesterol, and my mental health through fitness. And this is the message I'm portraying out, even at the age of 48. If I could do it, anybody could do it. But I believe your brain, your body, and what you put into your system, and it's all connected. Your mind's connected to your body and everything. So it's all linked. That's the message I'm putting out there. Through fitness and eating well and exercising, it helped my mental health to get me to where I am today.
Great. Thank you. And over to yourself, Kerry.
Right. Okay. Well, I believe that speaking out saves lives. Now I've discovered what life really is about, and that's saving life, and that's prevention. Because of my lived experience of child abuse, domestic violence, you name it, self-harm, all of those elements, injustices, from homelessness to a life I didn't want to live in. I didn't even realize I was in it. And I realized the only way of survival was somewhere to get up. And I couldn't get up when I was being beat down. And I knew that the system was failing me right and center. But I realized that doors were being closed on innocent people, and the voices wasn't getting heard. Situations unresolved. There was too many fatalities, too many suicides. I, for one, a survivor, and I now give back by creating my own enterprise. Where the system failed me, I implement what is needed for the public, and that is health services. That is a solution. Not just talk, but a solution. So, as a solution, before, when I was going through my process of my store, the person that helped me out through my store, who believed in what I said because they witnessed what was going through, was intelligence service investigation. So we collaborated as a whole to use his expertise, my expertise, the winning cases of everything that we've gone through, and create this beautiful enterprise called the Mind Over Matter Project, also known as the MOM Project, Suicide Prevention. And so where we end up collaborating with JDA Lifestyle, it's all health, and we have to have those solutions. So we have solutions to cover pretty much all areas of life, the disabilities, with the ability. We're saying that if you've got breath in your body, you have the ability to do something. So it's about bringing out the best in people and offering and providing those solutions. And that's why we need, as a community, to come together and put out what is available to them, because that's what we have, isn't it? It's a gift. We have knowledge, and we have to pass that knowledge back so we can find the way forward. So this is us, suicide prevention, so we believe you're not alone, and that's speaking out saves lives. And the remit on here is to recover, regain, and rediscover, and that's what we're about: life, saving life, and enhancing life, and teaching the right skills to to enhance life and to promote a healthy, balanced lifestyle. So that's where we all come into play, because with the mental health, you have people think that mental health is just a word, but it isn't. It doesn't describe what somebody's going through. It doesn't bring, it's nowhere near to light that should be to what is the experience with that individual person. And sometimes around people look at mental health that is just one-sided, but I always say that people that commit the crime have mental health, because you've got to maintain that anger, and that's just where some of the stability comes from with the mental health, isn't it? So maintaining that anger, and where mental health came into it, and people that are self-harmers without promoting the method comes into it about how do you manage that without hurting yourself, and then sometimes there's a lot of intervention with police involvement, not being able to manage how to get your voice across, because sometimes people are hysterical, and then that costs the victim, who then victimized again with the communication, with the uniform and the non-uniform. So what we do is try to sort of say, look, behind that uniform, there can be a balanced human being, and I think that's we all have some mask and some identity within us, and it's about overcoming the barriers. And so we try to break those barriers down and try to rebuild in a way where we've got to look at our individual self and what we're putting into ourselves, and what we can do to change, support one another.
I think you raised a good point. I think for yourself, Adrian, being an ex-police officer, you have walked the walk. You know what it's like to be frontline. With the recent instances this year, with people demonstrating, calling for reform within the prison system, within the police system, and how we go about our work, that is really going to be something I'd love to interview you and go into depth with you with regards to what was your experience as a Black police officer, but what was it like for you as a police officer trying to retain your own mental health in the police force, and what support is there? Because the work that I've been doing with Horton Regional Police is really looking at how do we best support police officers do their job and not be mental health advisors, support workers while on duty. It's recognised that as a police force, you are doing multiple different roles when called out on a job, and you're not experienced in mental health. So when I talk about quality assurance and public services reform, how do we as a collective work in collaboration with each other to ensure that when you get the call, the appropriate people are there to service the needs of the victim or the perpetrator or the criminal, let's say, because irrelevant of being a criminal, you still have to be looked after like a normal human being. And in your experience, you face all different kind of. So give me an idea of what you've faced in your work and how that has affected you.
Okay, without giving too much away for when we talk at a later date when we can go into it in depth. Just setting the parameters, my police career ended, what are we now, in 2021, so that's 12 years ago that I'd not been a serving police officer. But that 12 years is significant because I spent 7 years prior to that in the police. So this is going way back to 2004 when I actually joined up. Now, at that time, personally, I was naturally a younger man. I had some life experience, but I never actually suffered with mental health myself. My understanding of mental health was pretty much non-existent, insofar as if I saw somebody who we would now say suffers with mental health, you would turn around and say, oh, there's that old tramp or vagrant sitting on the bench, oh, he's crazy, he's mad. And that's about as much that I personally knew about mental health. didn't know the difference between EUPD or schizophrenia or bipolar or all the different terms that we now have on a regular day-to-day basis in every conversation, knew nothing of that.
Sure.
Go into the police, do my 26-week training course. They mention to you that people will suffer with mental health, and you're to advise caution when you're dealing with that, but you will learn more on the job. That's what they tell you. Okay, fine. So you come out of training school, you get posted to where you go, and you work with a more experienced officer than yourself for a month or two before you can find your feet, and they puppy walk you basically on the beat, and you learn how to do the job.
Right.
At some point, you will come across somebody with mental health, and the way that we dealt with mental health at that time was to use what we call here in England Section 136, which is the Mental Health Act. Okay, I believe of 1968. I'll have to double check that for you. Now that 136 Act, Section 136 stipulates that somebody is not capable of looking after themselves or making sound judgments, and the police officers who come along, which at this junction would be myself and my colleague, walk up to this person because we've had a call that classic one from where I'm from anyway is, person sitting on a park bench naked.
Right.
Okay, so it's not necessarily voyeurism or indecent exposure. Once you get there, you realize this young man or this young lady is not quite right. So you kind of put the latter away and look at the fact that they definitely need help,
right,
some sort of hospital treatment. But what we then do is we then, you make your inquiries. Hello, what's your name? Why are you sitting here like this? La di da di da. And it soon becomes apparent that myself and my colleague cannot deal with that situation. We are not equipped to deal with that. So you apply 136, Section 136, and you detain the person. And once you do that, you're then required to escort the person to the nearest hospital, because a police station is not a place of safety.
Yeah, I think yes, the challenge we have is that the explicit demonstration of someone having mental health challenges in our community, the terminology of the crazy woman sitting on the bench or the crazy man, the reality is that mindset is the call that you're being given.
Yes.
The question is, if it's about the training that you need to have before going out into the public, my concern is what happens to that person that does not demonstrate the obvious voyeurism or indecent exposure, that is just looking like you're coming to the pub, you're coming to a party to arrest someone, and then suddenly you realise that the person's being aggressive or the person's refusing to take advice or take direction. You're now dealing with a resistance situation, and without even being able to diagnose or recognise that this person is dealing with some form of mental health. And I speak like that because I'm talking about even the children that present themselves at 16 but look 14, that he's diagnosed with autism, that he's high functioning, and suddenly they're getting caught up in you're being caught up in a situation, they're not responding, they're not giving you no eye contact, but they're fully able, and you see that, or could be read to be something different. And it's that kind of breakdown that I would love to do with you, in a sense of what are the changes that need to be made. Clearly, more training needs to be done, but what are the changes with regards to the support that police officers need to have as well?
I think for me, it's down to resources. That's what is missing, just like with everything else. But I do believe that police officers do need more training, and I think from the time that I've been in, as I said, I've been absent for 12 years now. What I have seen is a lot has got better because people are dealing with situations different. I guess out of one tragedy, you know, something good will come of that, whether it's somebody dying in police custody and then they go through the whole rigmarole of an inquiry to find out officers weren't trained, you know, laws are outdated. That will take a few years to change. And we've had a number of those types of cases to bring us up to where we are today, in particular here in the UK. But what I think the problem is here in the UK is basically the question that you posed. The police officer here is expected to be the mental health counsellor, your debt management counsellor, your drug rehabilitation officer, also your parole officer, and just about everything else that Joe Public wants the police officer to be. I will tell you, maybe Jay might be able to back me up on this, although his role in the military was slightly different to the role that I performed as a police officer. But I will tell you, all I wanted to do when I was a police officer is to get into a car and wait for them to say, there is a fight down the road, or somebody's breaking into the bank, or whatever it may be, so I could flip that switch to put the blue lights on, do 100 miles an hour, get there, maybe, you know, get physical with somebody and arrest the person and bring them back to the police station and arrest and charge them for the crime that they've committed, if I could prove it. That's what I wanted to do. And
right, law and order.
Law and order. I'm sure if you speak to 99.9% of all police officers, they will tell you, male and female, that's what they want to do. But on my way to a job, as I've just described, I will get diverted to something else, you know, a call about mental health, a call about a cat up a tree. You know, somebody will call and say, oh, I lent my neighbour £5 last week and he's not paid me back that £5. You'd be amazed at what you get sidetracked to do. So I do think police officers need the resources. We need, and Kerry and myself experienced this some years ago. They have what they call a triage officer who rides around in the back of a police car and attends you know, various calls where they believe that people may be vulnerable or suffering with some sort of mental impairment. The problem is, it's one officer, if that's what the or doctor, yeah, and that one doctor is going to be in the back of a car with two police officers. And if you get a call over here that somebody needs doctor's assistance, or the officers call and say, yes, we could do with that, they will go. But if you get a call on the other side, there's no one else to go. So somebody's getting and somebody's losing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it basically boils down to resources. And I think
it's resources. And if I could just say as well, resources with people that understand how resources work, if that makes sense. You know, I've been in jobs, again, I'm sure Jay will say the same thing in the army. I've been in positions where certain people get their positions by this fast track system. So because you've got a degree from Cambridge or Oxford, you jump up the scale, you know, 18 months you're a chief constable, but you have no ground experience. So you don't know how to use your resources when you do get them. People squander. It's like money. People squander it, if that makes sense. And I think, you know, we need people who have firm experience, as they like to use the phrase here in England, grassroots. That's what we need. We need grassroots people who started at the very bottom and worked their way to the top. So they've been through the system. They understand the changes. They know what works and what don't work. And until they sort that out, 50 years from now, we will be sitting here having the very same conversation.
And it's on that. It's on that point. Sorry to cut you. It's on that point. I think I need to have a discussion with the team that I work with regards to Holton Regional Police, and look at that is very much very active about looking at how they police, the resources that is needed, and you've echoed a lot of what they've actually said. And so that looks like it's going to be a whole different debate that you and I can have again. So for all those that are watching, Intelligence Services Investigation Agent as Ashby will be joining me in weeks to come. I'll post it and give you enough time. I'd love to have you alongside maybe another Canadian police officer that has retired, but is talking about mentoring police services and really being on the task force focus group around what are the needs of the community and what have you learned as a ex-cop and how you can best provide some feedback.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'd love to take part in that. Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Right.
Thank you.
So, JDA, help me out here. Your background or your focus is how your body is a tool that should be used to improve and enhance your mental health. Help me out. Help me understand what it is that I could be possibly referring to, because the reality is you're a master at it. You've lived it, you've walked it, and you're now doing it. And I've watched your videos and I've seen you at it. So help me understand. I'm always saying walk for mental health. That's my new buzzword, because I do think it helps. But in your experience, to what capacity and where is your work taking you today?
For me, right, as I said, being ex-military and going through PTSD, when I got into a dark place at one point in my life, and then I got through counselling, and obviously, when you go through mental health, so you feel it's feeling inadequate. Look in the mirror, you don't like the way you look. That's how it started for me. I was severely overweight. I was depressed, and that depression sets in. It adds with the PTSD, just adds it tenfold. You don't like yourself. And I think in life, to any illnesses that you have, when you get to the point where you don't like yourself, like learning to love yourself again. Until you love yourself, until you admit you have an illness, you can't move forward. And it's finding that self-worth back into yourself. So for me, it came to a point, I came to a crossroad, and there's two ways to go. Either I let myself go, or make a change. I need to change it. So I decided to go back training, and knowledge from the military. Obviously, as a soldier, you know how to train. You've gone through all that. I put myself through that training, lost the weight, and as I was looking in the mirror, the weight was falling off, and then you get an enzyme, that feel good factor, that you're looking good, you're feeling good, and I also believe food is medicine. So food could come two ways. It's to be the worst poison, or it's your medicine. As well, it's what you put into your system. If you eat the right certain food, it affects your mental health. If you eat too much sugar, it affects your mental health. If you eat too much carb, it affects your mental health. So your body's a machine. Your body's a well-oiled machine. It's like, I'm from an engineer background. It's like the brain, probably best way to describe it. Your brain's the computer that runs the body, right? The inside is what you need to put the right fuel in. If you can't put diesel in a Ferrari, it doesn't work. You have to put the right fuel to function. But the computer runs your whole body. So for me, it all gels together. Once you get to a point where you exercise, you sleep better. When you exercise, you sleep better. And when you eat the right food, you feel more energetic. And for me, the journey where it's got me, it seriously helped my mental health, because I start feeling good about myself, start feeling self-value. And you know what? The best thing about this is that I did it by myself. I've disciplined myself to get there with the support of other people. And it came to a point, it's that feel-good factor, looking good, feeling good. And it's not for everybody. But it's what's important to you. And it's about, this is who I am today because I've changed my lifestyle. I'm 48. I feel energetic. I sleep better. And my mental health is good. So when I feel depressed, not to say it's secure. Your mental health will always be there. Your depression will always be there. But when I'm feeling down, I go down to gym. I work out. I take that frustration out. I use that to take my mind off other things. So for me, your mind, your mental health, your physical health, and what's inside it is all linked together. And this is why I work so closely with the mind over matter. And this is where the connection is where same way what I've gone through is giving back to help people. Kerry helps with the mental health side of it, and I help with the physical side of it and eating the right thing. And it gives that extra oomph to what I believe in. Is that when you I'm training a client, you talk to them because as well, a lot of personal trainers say we're like a lot of people as a personal trainer. They talk to you about their problems. You find out a lot of them. You become a counsellor. So when certain words or certain things that happen, then I can refer them to the right people because I know the right people.
Right. Right. I think your Facebook page, I know you're being quite modest right now, but I see your Facebook numbers and the people that post on your Facebook page, and it amazes me the amount of people are actually engaged in what you're doing, are adding to your webpage, are networking through your webpage. And it was through me being nosy and sharing my content that I came across your webpage and really started listening to what some of your followers were saying about the amazing work that you do. And so walking for mental health, I can do that. I might have to come back to you about the fitness side of things, but overall and over and above, I think COVID is really battering people's mental health. And I think we're recognizing, the public are recognizing that when you make me stay at home, I don't feel better. So now people are actually getting out there, being creative, getting physical, because what else is there to do apart from eat, sleep, watch TV, and really get stir crazy with the number of weeks that we've been on lockdown. So it has been a case of, as a parent, come on, kids, I've got to get you out of the house. I've got to get you fresh air. I've got to get you physically active. I've got to take the change of scenery. And so I am one of those slow learners to accept that your mental health and your physical health and what you put in your body plays a key component to the balance, the chemical balance that is always called into question when mental health goes unbalanced, you know? So, yeah, check out JDA. I will be having a meeting and having an interview with JDA to really get into depth about what it is like for a military personnel to leave the military and survive a civilian life. And I think you are a perfect example of the tenacity and the resilience and the determination that you have. You know, you've got self-discipline. So how that has all played a part in your recovery to make you where you are, it totally amazes me. And I'd love to hear more about your story. I'd love to hear more about your journey to where you are now, and really to like lift you up and make you know that we know that the military is tough, and even the toughest of people go through mental health and still survive and live productive lives. And I just want to be a beacon of hope to all those that might be really feeling it right now during this time, you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mum's Project, Kerry Mussington.
Mum.
I had the pleasure of spending what I was going to think was going to be 5 minutes quick chat that turned into a whole different post of events, laughter, tears, shock, wow, amazement to really. And I have learned just by spending I think it was about 2 hours with you, talking just about life and how life as a woman and how you find yourself today. And I think in our conversation, we talked about small things with regards to how has being first generation born British, and the experience and having finding understanding of our elders and their actions and their choices that they've made, and the fact that they are the first generation that came to England, married quick, settled down quick, and what Britain regards as, oh, you was a teenage pregnancy. Then in that generation, that was the norm. You got married early, you settled down, you had children, you made the best that you could because you're raising kids for the first time in a strange country, and we are the products of that. That is unique when it comes to mental health. We cannot take away the fact that our history, our parents' history, all impact on their mental health, their coping strategies, their ability to parent, and be parents in a society when they're up against so much more. And so when we're talking about neglect, we have to, when we put it in the context, we have to say, oh, mum's out working late at night. Was that neglect? When we're talking about a child where role reversals is being made and that a child is now parenting the parent, is that neglect and abuse? Or was that part of coping within a Britain in the 80s of Thatcherism? The social constraints for generations that are born in Britain for the first time adds another layer when we talk about mental health. So when you shared my story with me, I was totally enamored by the resilience, the fight, the I'm not going down. And then you come out with the Mums Project to kind of light the candle, put the icing on the cake for everyone. They're just trying to just get by. So Kerry Mussington, I don't know what you've got in your back pocket, but it is definitely energy, dedication, and a good drive. So Shem, tell me your story. Let the world know your story and why we know Mums Project today.
Okay, so my story, oh gosh, a whole years of the story. Okay, I now know that the behavior, the learned behavior is what you see. And again, as you described, that maybe your parents didn't actually know how to actually talk about mental health or deal with mental health. So I guess I watched my mum deteriorate with mental health, alcohol, battle for all of that. There was domestic violence. I guess they showed me the way, the leadership skills. You know, who's your role model. So there's a lot of stories there to uncover with my lifestyle, including when people didn't spot what was actually really going on where I was being abused as a child, through what they call like a family friend, you know. So that brought on a wealth of secrets without, hence why we do the mental health. I ended up years later having a diagnosis of emotionally unstable personality disorder. Now I don't like that label because the label represents, and they also is another term very relatable, is borderline personality disorder. So a lot of people, that's relatable to a lot of people who then will add into that label, oh, I suffer with anxiety, I suffer with panic attacks. Well, it's all under the same remit.
That's right.
All of that behavior, including self-harm, and it doesn't mean you've got to destroy your body. And we are very careful about not putting those ideas in and promoting that method of how somebody harmed themselves, because that's how we learned it. So I'm overcoming the self-harm element, replacing. I learned to live alongside this disorder. Is a label that represents that trauma. Okay, so you might as well say we've got PST2 in a sense, because at the end of the day, it's past stress, post stress, past, not the same as the military, because he still deals with Jay. We talk about this, flashbacks. We still have flashbacks when we're victims of rape and domestic violence and child abuse and things like that. So we're dealing with those flashbacks and overcoming those fears all the time. So everything when we're dealing with human beings is very relatable. It's a relatable story, but it's how we deal with the emotion. Now, nobody teaches you that as you go through life until you've had enough of it. You know what I mean? So you go through trying to give up and quitting all the time. And you've got to stop and stop. Why are you quitting? And sometimes the majority of it is because of the environment and the people that you're with, or you're around, who you're encouraged with, what road you go down. So I went down the road of a lot of things that a lot of victims do: promiscuity, crime, criminal behaviour, getting in trouble, being on probation. You know, he could have been my probation officer. Do you know what I mean? Being on probation, because at the end of the day, part of mental health is recovering and rediscovering and staying away. It's rehabilitation. Every day is rehabilitation, not to go back to you. Like I put this in another way. If you've been boxed in or into a situation where you're in a fetus position most of your life, then somewhere you've got to rise up and learn a new technique to learn to walk again in a different manner, not crawl. We've been on our knees for so long, and that's because of the injustices. That's because of people and their bad behaviour. That's because of people that just cannot latch on or you know, even include themselves into the community. So then you have people isolating themselves and not really even understanding what's going on with them.
Yeah.
You know, so as intelligence service investigation said earlier, you know, dealing with 136. Hey, experience. I've been on a 136, you know, so I can tell you about the inside of being in a mental institution, temporarily, by the way, and voluntarily sometimes. You know, I've been in there voluntarily and I've been in there temporarily because I recognize that it was a cry for help. And people will suffer from mental health. Some of it is because of their environment and the people that they're with. So in my case, it became about a controlling element, domestic violence. So then that comes in because we've taught all of that. Undoing all of that and having some self-respect and a hobby and a passion and me time and developing me. So I, amongst all the war, I would have to say thank you, intelligence service, because if it wasn't for him as an eyewitness to criminal activity towards myself, injustices, discrimination, racial bias, I wouldn't be alive here today. I hired this man to work for me. I highly recommend these services because I hired him and I'm a member of the written contract. And even as a victim, mental health, I could only feel the mental health because acts of crime makes you don't want to be here.
Right.
You don't know where to go. You don't know where to run. Who's going to believe you? What if you tell? What about the perpetrator? Is he going to come back? So these are another topics that there's many topics within my life that I share out to let people know you do not have to take this.
No.
You can have your life back. And those people that are victims of pedophilia and all of those things, they need to tell people out there in the community just what are those signs, because if we don't give back, then the pattern happens again.
That's right.
It's my remit to gather people like Jay, intelligence, and yourself to push out that awareness so it prevents fatalities. We can stop the signs of our abusers and we can prevent mega things from happening. When we preach to people out there, when I talk to people, I not use the word preach, sorry. When I talk to people out there about relatable experiences and where things come from, one of my aims is to protect the children of today. That's my aim. I need to protect those children of today and give them a fair chance of life. And that is to reach those adults sitting in their homes, wherever they are, and say, look, come on, you have a duty. But some of them are not equipped to be parents. They don't know how to do it properly because they've come from
Broken home.
They've come from their parents, but when they become a parent, whose roof are you still living under? Are you still under your parents' rules, or are you going to be that parent? You know. So again, life is twists and turns. We cover disabilities, so let's say just giving you for instance, domestic violence, fibromyalgia, ADHD. You know what else? Blind age, stroke, blind vision, stroke, whatever the human body will incur. That's the awareness we're putting out so other people can learn the disabilities, the disorders, what they mean, how they can help. Now, in regards to services out there, and even within the police force, front of house, they're the ones that I have to go out and educate. I need them to understand. It is because a single individual's decisions of not understanding can cost life. Now, in my remit, I've had a lot of trauma, overcome, rebuilt my life to stay clear of negativity. And it was the most disgusting, horrendous journey, but it was bloody well worth it. Excuse me, the English term. It was really, really worth it because now my life experience has built an enterprise that is a solution to health problems by networking and coming together. People have experience, just like me. I have experience. I want to tell you, this is how you can best overcome. Talk to me. What's the problem? Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. What do you think you need to do? You know, and then again, you see, we're having males on board as well gives it a different spin because they're honest. Honesty is the best honesty, and when the story is relatable, when you have people telling you their life has been saved, well, why stop there?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's what keeps putting my mental health, because I still struggle, especially if somebody's upset me. I then have to learn to deal with my emotions in a better way than what I've ever had to do. Because one, I'm a role model now. So how do I teach people if I'm going to be doing the same thing? So I like to say that if an alcoholic can say they're like 2 years sober or something from alcohol, then I'll say from a self-harmer, in a way I have done self-harm, I'm 2 years sober. So, so I'm replacing all that negativity and I'm plunging it and breathing life into my life by getting involved and trying to be integrated back in the community rather than ostracize myself because I'm scared of people.
Right.
So I don't want to be afraid of people. I'm sure certain individuals don't actually want people to fear them, but there are some that have power, and it's not equality there. So I am aiming for equality and diversity.
I think to bring it all together, we're on the last 15 minutes or last kind of coming up 12 minutes of our time together. And I think if I just summarize, when I put all of your stories together, I think, okay, so as a therapist, speaking to what you spoke of, Kerry, some people live in silence. They live their mental health in silence. They don't speak out. They have to hit rock bottom. They have to come into contact with the law, or they have to be rock bottom to cry for help. And we've got to take away the stigma that is associated with mental health to say that I live with mental health. It is not all of me. It's a subsection of me. It is the part of me that is the most vulnerable. And I'm finding a way to live with it, understand it, and know what my triggers or my coaching strategies are. And the work that I do is very much focused on what brings you here, what's going on in the here and the now, and let's work out how we put in place strategies for you to cope and live and be more resilient to the life challenges that come your way.
Mm-hmm.
And that then means that when a police officer comes out to see you, for example, or there's an incident, or you're part privy to an incident, that it doesn't impact you no more than surface level, because you are so, not you personally, but because when people are living with mental health, they internalize everything that looks like mental health externally. And so it's about how do you associate, this is my mental health. That person is not responding to my mental health. They're responding to me. It isn't necessarily all of me. It's only a part of me. So let me get help for part of me. And let's strip away the shame and the disgrace and call it what it is. We just need a little bit of time for reflection, a support to analyze our choices and our actions, and to find a better understanding of what is my mental health. Because when we grasp the triggers that trigger our mental health to be unbalanced, we'll be able to manage it and manage it well. And then we don't have to go rock bottom. We will self-refer if we need to. In the UK, I'm familiar with After working with the National Health Service for 9 years, there is Tier 1, which is everybody, Tier 2, which is community-based, Tier 3, when you're coming to see me as a clinician, where you've been diagnosed, as well as Tier 4 is sectional. We need to know within ourselves when we need what level of service. The integrated care system in the UK, which I'd love to happen here in Canada, because it's not integrated. I can go and see my GP here. I can go to, in your terms, Liverpool for my health, my heart. I could go to Manchester for my liver, and nobody knows what's going on. And we need to integrate that service so that if my behaviour flags at school, it's flagged somewhere. If I go to A&E, accident and emergency, twice in a month, social services should be flagged to say what's happening with how do we provide support for that family, not how do we take away the children. How do we give Tier 2 support to that family member when this child has turned up to A&E, accident emergency, twice on a Friday night? That could be involved in the law. That could be out late, slipped and fell. That could be anything. But when we deal with parents and families, that we come from a place of empathy, that we're providing a Tier 2 service of support. Only when you know that it's an issue around risk or it's around neglect or abuse that it comes into Tier 2 or Tier 3. And that calls for police services and that calls for social services. But before we get there, I would love everyone to be able to reach out to community Tier 2 services, which is JDA, lifestyle. You know, she needs to get active. Let's get a mentor in place. Child's gone to A&E twice in 1 month and leaving the house in the evening. She's a teenager. It's not a crime. But let's get the support services in place so that we can provide the support around families. Parents feel better about reaching out to services and obtaining services that is there to support them rather than strip them apart. And so when we're talking about suicide prevention, death by suicide in Canada is huge. It is huge. It has a huge initiative. The number of children that are dying by death by suicide just in what we call the Mississauga region is shocking. Then we have the First Nation, Aboriginal, Native community that is riddled with death by suicide and alcoholism and drugs. Where is the support structure for them? And so when you talk about suicide prevention, I think it's time to bring that to Canada.
Certainly coming out. I mean, we think the Mom Project, you can find that on Facebook as well. The Mom Project Mental Health Awareness Real Talk Facebook. That's for a group for everyone to promote exchange healthy tips and tools and encouragement. That's what that is. We have a website which is www.momproject.co.uk. And the thing is, suicide. It was funny taking my course, and I know we're only short for time, to prevent suicide and go and do a course, which is first response for suicide. And it's quite hilarious taking it, really, because how am I supposed to teach someone? How can they teach me how to save a life when I was the one that was doing it? So I'm going to teach you how to save your life and how to replace what you was doing and take ownership for your happiness, you know, because it is a sad event, but it is. I mean, hearing the mothers that lose their children makes you reflect on your own actions and what you did, you know. And I know I have to explain it all. So that's where we are about teaching and education, why people get so down, what you can do to prevent that, and how you can be supportive. And that's why we're very passionate about saving lives, all of us on here. So we look forward to building that community much bigger. We are really working so hard to provide. It doesn't matter where in the world you are, we can give you that support, because that's how big we're going. You know, we're networking in that belief of prevention. That's it. One person every 40 seconds dies of suicide. We cannot afford for this to continue to happen. you know. So we're doing our best with all of the COVID that's going on. It's causing a much of more depression and more fear, and more fear. So therefore, you know, having those solutions, doing what we're doing, even if we can't do the one-on-one, we project in another way so we can hear it as you are today. And then, you know, you get involved. Please join us on the WhatsApp talks, on the talks and the conference webinars, because we'll be covering so many topics. And Nicola, I'd love to have you over here and join us too, and also see where you can help some of our clients with your therapy, because what you do on the therapy side is amazing. It's structured. I believe in you, and that's why we are here to promote what we do, but I don't believe in what you're doing, and you've got something to give. And so I'm glad we've all come together to collaborate for the best interest of the community.
Thank you so much, Kerry. Listen, it's been a pleasure having you all. On It Therapies really wants to reach out to professionals like yourself that are doing great things within the community across the world. I know that you have colleagues from the US, the same with yourself, JDA, and Intelligent Services. You are a whole host in your own right. I really can't say more than appreciate the time. For anybody that would like to, that has been moved by this, please DM me privately. You have the Mums Project, you have Intelligent Service Investigation, and you have JDA Lifestyle. I would like to, a bit of tip for everyone that might be watching or anyone that finds this video of any help. If you feel that you want to spend some quality time just sitting, take advantage of the free consultation that is being made available to you by On It Therapies. You have our number. Our number is 905-805-3884. It's very simple. If you want some time to reflect, some of you may not even know that you need some therapy or some time. What's the harm in taking the time over a cup of coffee and having a discussion with someone that is just there to listen, reflect, and help you work out whether you have a need? And those children out there, if you don't know what to do with your children, give your children a project to do. Tell them to contact, give them the resources. We have 4 professionals here, all that are willing to help them in this time during COVID. So reach out to us. Thank you for joining us live on Facebook. To Intelligent Services Investigations, thank you for joining us. Can you please let us know how we can contact you?
You can get me on Facebook, which is www.facebook.com/Intelligent Service Investigations, but as all one word. And I also have a website, which is www.intelligentserviceinvestigations.co.uk. Either of those 2 platforms with each other.
Thank you. And JDA?
For me, you can get me on Facebook on JDA Lifestyle page. Use Messenger to message me. Still working on the website. So if you can't get hold of me, you can always get hold of me through Kerry, Mind Over Matter. We work very closely together with crime investigation. So we're one big happy family. Yeah.
And to you, Kerry?
Right, you can get me on Facebook. You can go to the Mind Over Matter Give Back page. You can actually sign up and be a member of the group on Mind Over Matter. No, excuse me, mental health. Oh my God.
Let's start again. It's okay.
Project Mental Health Awareness Real Talk Facebook group, or you can find me and support what we do, support the cause by visiting www.momproject.co.uk.
Thank you. And for all those that know me, I'm here. I'm live. We do virtual. I'm regarded as essential services, so my work doesn't stop. And you can contact myself on onitherapies.com. You'll find my website. You have my email, which is info@onit.com. Reach out to me. Any questions, any concerns that you might have about family members. It's a private and confidential service. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Bye.